Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi, and such a pleasure to be here on a brand new week, and of course, a brand new day, and we're excited to be starting off the show on a good note this morning, and we have fantastic. Let me welcome away all day. Adam, are you there? Hello. I
Good
guess you
morning,
can
good
hear
morning,
us.
Mr. Rotimi. Hi, good
So
morning. Can you hear me now? Oh,
yes, better. Good
I'm
morning.
very
How
well,
are you?
thank you. I'm so happy to be here, or to be back here.
Yeah. Okay. So, how's it been? How's been your summer? How's been your sabbatical leave?
It's been amazing, and I mean, we had a beautiful time during the summer holidays, and yes, it's back to school period. And I remember telling you that I was not, disposed at the time, but I'm happy that now I can have my time. The children are off to school, and I can just do my thing.
Fantastic. Do your thing and make your money. That's the way it is. All
Thank
right.
you.
And today we'll be having a great conversation. And but before then, as usual, would like to take some time out to talk about the conversation of the day. We have the headline news within the world and around the world of education, and we'll analyze the news, and then we'll move to the topic of the day. So that means I have the pleasure of having you do the analysis today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to call up each of the headlines and then we'll review this together.
Okay.
Yep. So let's start with the first one that says the Vice President Oshibajo advocates provision for basic education for girls, for girl child and others. So yes, you've seen that.
Okay.
Any comment? Any thoughts?
I mean, the comment is my comment is the obvious one. We've had basic education in the past for most states in Nigeria. We've had something like that where we said, "Oh, let's have free basic education for everyone, not just girls." In the past, and what happened? It's always the quality of the education they get. For me, because it's one thing to want to make education free, but what standard, what level of education are we bringing? So it's a good idea, even though I don't think basic education should be just for girls, it should be for everyone. But what plan does the government have in place to ensure that it's not like what we used to have in the past, and the children are able to get quality learning up to year, I think year 10, because basic education now comprises of year 1 up to year 9, if I am right. So yes, it's a welcome development. I just hope they have better plans this time around. Hello, Mr.
You
Rotimi, can you
said
hear me?
if it's a game of hope,
Okay.
yes, I can.
Oh, okay.
With, with a game of hope, yes, I believe that that works. All right, so let's move to the headline, which has another workers and students speak on LASU VC.
Okay, I wouldn't
Hello.
know what they're speaking about. I wouldn't know what the conversation is about. I'm not. I'm just hearing now that Lasso has a new VC. Oh well, I mean, but if I were to be them, we're probably speaking about new ideas the VC is bringing into the system, into the school. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have details of what they're speaking about, so I can't really say anything.
Okay. So on the headline news, actually, it's the different mixed reaction to the announcement of the new VC. That was basically last week, to be
Okay.
precise. The new
Okay.
VC of last week was finally announced. And of course, we know that there are so many people who how do I put it now, who had their takes. And then, funny enough, last week there was the headline about if uh, a medical doctor that's been a professor, or does that equate to the normal professorship and all the likes and all the stuff. So really, it's a mixed scenario.
Reaction. Okay.
But then, but because this has been a bit of the drama has been that, okay, people felt there were interventions from the governor, and the governor earlier had said from last year into the year that it wasn't going to be involved. But so many people have their own thoughts, so hence these reactions. But then it is what it is.
Hello, Miss. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. I think you were breaking at some point.
Yes, I said Afghanistan Taliban rulers exclude girls from returning to secondary school.
Wow. Wow. But why is that though? Because I'm thinking, I mean, whenever I think of Afghanistan, I'm just thinking of, okay, the whole Islamic thingy going on there. But I don't know why this may be so. Maybe because of security issues. I wouldn't know. But I'm wondering, I hope it's not because of religion. If it's for security issues, then, I mean, it may be excused, it may be understood. For the meantime, though.
Yeah, it's more of it's not security issues, more of their policy and principle, based on their new, we have new power in place,
Yes.
so yes, so pretty much that's it. Let's welcome Pinfolu back to the show. Pinfolu, you're welcome.
Hello,
Good
good morning,
morning.
Faye. Good morning.
Good morning, Adama. Good morning to all our tribe members out there. It's another beautiful Monday and another beautiful morning to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so Pinfolu, please do us the honors to continue the conversation on the headline, you and Adama. Thank you.
Okay. Uh, our next headline will be our people the duty to educate and empower them. Leaders at all levels, children and girls, as a duty, enabling them to access more socioeconomic opportunities and live better lives according to the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, SAN. Prof. Osinbajo stated this in Abuja on Saturday evening at an event organized to mark the 2021 Mass Literacy Day by the a non-governmental organization founded in 2020. From the northern part of the country, we're seeing a lot of positivity towards Western education and towards the education of the children. And that for me is a really good one. Uh, Adama, what's your thoughts on this?
Okay, Finn, for the most part, I didn't really get what you said because the line was breaking. I was hoping to see the caption that I can comment.
Okay, the what we're taking is we owe our people duty to educate and empower them. That's
Okay.
majorly coming from the VP.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm surprised that all of a sudden he's showing a lot of interest in education as a professor. That's what we always expected, even from the first day that he came into power. We've always expected him to show like lots of interest in education. And I totally agree with him, right? Even though I feel like it's coming late. But yes, they owe us a duty. They have to empower and educate the entire nation. I strongly believe that one of the tools that can cause massive change in a society is education, right? And that's the simple truth. The leaders owe us. We have a right to quality education. Everyone, especially basic education for everyone who is a citizen of this country. And yes, um, I'll say yes to that. I just hope that there are plans in place already to ensure that this comes to life immediately and not just another word of hope.
Okay, we are hoping to see our leaders take charge and be what they're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be appealing to them or pleading with them
Exactly,
for
exactly.
us to have good quality education. Yeah, so that's that headline. And so our last headline, um, Lagos Model Schools students to pay 35,000 naira experimental fee experimental fees per term. Now, the experimental is in parentheses. And let's go to the body of that. Boarding house students of Lagos State Model Colleges and upgraded schools we paid 35,000 naira in each of the next two terms. Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, Commissioner for Education, made the clarification in a statement issued in Lagos on Sunday by Mr. Ganiu Lawal, an assistant director in the ministry. Adefisayo said the experimental fee regime was in accordance with the resolution made by officials of the ministry, parents, and lawmakers. She assured that no other fee will be charged, nor will any intervention be imposed on parents within this period. Now, what I'm not really sure about is what this experimental fee is
Covers.
about. And yeah, exactly what the experimental fee is. That's what I'm not sure. But what's your take on this?
I mean, I'm also wondering what does the experimental fee even mean? I mean, if you want to impose a fee on people, at least be kind enough, be nice enough to name it, give it a name that I know what it's about. Like when I hear the name, I'm like, okay, this is exactly what they're saying. right? I don't know what experimental fee is. I don't know, and that's that amount. 35,000 is actually a lot, especially because I know that this they would still have to pay what's it called, tuition, right? So they still pay tuition, they'll still pay for school uniforms, they'll still pay for books and all of that. So I'm sure all of that is not even part of the experimental fee. So those ones are still different, and maybe they might still pay for PTA and stuff like that. So what does experimental fee cover? They need to be very clear, or give it a name or a tag that specifically tells us what it covers. Let it not be like another way of just collecting money from these guys. That's 35,000 we're talking about. That's a lot of money. So it's not, it doesn't sit well with me actually.
Okay, seeing some part of the news that well gives further details, says the the idea was to avoid overburdening to parents, and it will further
Okay.
allow for a true reflection of the workability of the new boarding school fees in the 2021-2022 academic session. The menu list of the students will also be reviewed and standardized in terms of necessary nutrition. Schools are also expected to incorporate available local menus and seasonal foods. There will be a review after the second term to analyze expenditures, gaps, needs, and adequacy of 35,000 naira to cater for a boarding student per term, she said. Okay, so I think this is a follow up to the initial plan, the initial
Okay.
increment in boarding fees that was announced earlier and kicked against by parents and
Mm-hmm.
those concerned stakeholders. So instead of having that lump increment now, they're experimenting with introducing 35,000 for a term, and then at the end of the term we'll be able to come back, review it, see how far that went, especially with feeding, with regards to feeding.
Okay.
But to be honest, I think it's a tough call for the government. We all know what prices of food is in the
Mm-hmm.
market now. And to say that 35,000, if it's only dedicated to feeding for a term is 12, 13 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
that really that really doesn't cover it if we have to
Sure.
face the reality of what's the current prices of things and especially of food is. But let's hope there is a way that this can be covered. Let's hope that there is a way this can be that the effects will be well easier for
Mm-hmm.
everyone to to deal with, and that the government, in a way, can cushion the effects of this raise and the costly price of food items in the market.
Right. Right. I quite agree.
So I believe that's all. That's all this morning on our headlines, and we'll be going right into the body of we'll be going right into our discussion for today, and it's
Okay.
a memo to our regulators, a memo to the education regulators. Before we even go into maybe opening and all of that, if you were to write a memo to education regulators in the country, Adama, what would you say to them?
There's actually so much I would say to them. I don't know um where to start. But sincerely, if I were to start, I would first of all ask them a question, which is what kind of students or what kind of skills and knowledge are we expected to are we raising our children to have? Because I feel like one of the best ways to start addressing anything is from the output. What do we want to raise in our learners? I'm talking about all levels of learning. When a child is done from primary school to secondary school to university, I mean, even does the NYSC and the child is done, what kind of child are we looking at? What kind of students, what kind of person are we looking at raising? In terms of what kind of skills are we looking at them having? Knowledge, all of that, I need to be able to tell that, oh, they are aware that a lot has changed in the world and things should no longer be done the way they used to be done in the past. Okay, so much has changed, and we expect that everybody guiding education is able to reflect those changes in their policies, in their planning, in their budgeting, in everything that concerns education. So I just need to be aware that they're aware of all of this. Talking about the quality of the education that schools are rolling out, the behaviors and attitudes of children that they're rolling out, leadership skills, global awareness of the kind of quality of children they are rolling out as well. Just so much I'd like to talk about actually, but I'd like to start from the output and what they are looking at, um, you know, rolling out at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. Definitely, we have a lot to say to our regulators. But if we start off looking at who really are our regulators and what really are regulators supposed to do, they are the behind the scenes. They are like the engine of the car. They are the ones that say, this is what this is the uniformity that would that we
Want to
want in
see.
place in our education system. This is what the baseline should be. This is what safety measures in schools should be. Um, these are the number of years that is spent in the primary and the secondary. They regulate the system. So we could call them the thermostat of education. So
Mm-hmm.
they once you get to that point where it's getting too hot, cut it off. It's getting too cold, they cut it off. And they they help us find that equilibrium, that balance when it comes to the practice of education. So these are our regulators, and a lot because of their job description, a lot falls on them
Sure.
in regarding education. A lot is required of them in ensuring that, because if things are not going very well, there was a point in time where school buildings were collapsing like it was like it was the happening thing at the time, like it was fashionable. So every
Sure.
day in the news, we were hearing about, oh, this school building collapsed and killed so and so number of children. That collapsed and killed so and so number of children, and it became a thing, and we're wondering what exactly is going on. At that point, there was a call out to educate to the regulating bodies to check out the buildings, to check out the structure, to check out how, if these structures, if school structures, if they were originally designed to be school structures, and secondly, if they were, what were, if there were, if they were running foul of any building regulations. Some of them maybe started out as a bungalow and then they added another floor and another floor because they were having many more students. So these are the things that we really expect of our regulators to do. But how much of their duties, how much of this are we really seeing our regulators doing? Have they become very comfortable being in the offices than being on the road and being well, the inspectors are different from the regulators, but our regulators really out there? Um, are they up to are they really doing what they're expected to do? That's the question. And before we answer that question, welcome to the show this morning, Titi Adewusi. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
It's a good
morning. Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Yes, so we're talking about our regulators this morning, and what memo are we passing to our regulators? We have a word for them. We've sent a word, so our math teachers at a point in time today is to the regulators. And just before Titi came in, I was asking. Well, I'll let Adama take a first shot at it. Have our regulators become so relaxed and complacent in their duties? Have they become so laid back that are we cutting them off? We had this topic about cut off jam or cut off mark. Have we got to the point where we need to cut off our regulators, or should we be calling for a change of our regulators? Adama, over to you.
Okay, so have our regulators become very complacent? I would say yes. Um, has it got to the point where we need to cut them off? Of course, we cannot. A lot of things that the schools are still doing, a lot depends falls largely on what the regulators are doing, on what they have put on ground in order to regulate the education sector. So for me, I feel like there's so much that needs to be done. Okay, talking about school quality of school of learning that's going on in schools, talking about the curriculum and the changes that are happening in the world, and oh, is the curriculum able to meet up with these changes, talking about school safety, talking about, I mean, there's always the school or the other that is springing up in Abuja. So for example, I'm talking about Abuja now. You come to Abuja, there are just so many schools everywhere, and you cannot find one school to enroll your child because they probably feel like, oh, I'm a school is a school because of the building or because of they have the money to set up a building, and you come in the school and you're not getting quality education, you're not getting quality learning. It's like they don't even understand what a school should provide. They don't know the duties of the school owes its learners. So what kind of job, I'm talking about DQR, what kind of things do they look out for when they're looking at the school? Is it just the school buildings and some files? What do you inspect apart from just the school building and some files? Okay, so for me, I feel like let me just say generally, regulators in Nigeria, school regulators in Nigeria are actually relaxing. And there's just so much to be done. This is not the time to relax. This is a time that your brain needs to be ticking at every point in time. This is a time that schools should adopt as much technological advantages that would help propel education and to help us raise learners that are more globally aware. So we're raising people that, I mean, those days we used to have communities, small communities, so people can actually learn about their community, learn about how to be independent and be helpful to societies in a small community. Today we are looking at a global world. How can our learners fit into a global world? How can we as schools and school owners and school regulators make sure that a school is able to raise a proper child, a child who can fit into a global world in any aspect that they are called upon. So I don't think that regulators are doing enough. They need to sit up, they need to do more, and for the good of each and every one of us in Nigeria. Yeah, so that's that for me.
Thank you for that. And our role really do our regulators play? We know that traditionally they regulate, traditional school, the mortar and brick schools. Now we have a lot more of online schools. We have a lot more of people taking learning online into the world wide web space. What role should our regulators be playing in that sphere?
Sorry, Fee, I wasn't sure who the
Hello,
question.
yeah, it's for you.
Okay. Oh, sometimes it's easy to take a stick and flog someone and smack the person. But we also have to look at some of the realities on ground that the education sector is a poorly funded sector. So in as much as I want to take a stick, and say, regulators, you guys have not done well. I'm also aware of some of their challenges. The fact that it's a sector that they think of last when it comes to funding. And whether we like it or not, anything you want to do requires funds. So I want to be able to start by giving them that break. So that it's not all three of us that are flogging them. So there's that. And even apart from the funding, when you also don't have the goodwill, it's hard. It's as if you are really working against the current to actually want to implement anything. So having said that, I just want to first, give them a bit of a breather. Then COVID came and really, whatever was there before, it just, showed your nakedness, so to speak. Even for countries, the COVID came and just made things worse. So like where we are now, generally, we were not being driven by technology. We were not. Um, it's hard for us to just jump into it because the same problem is that it needs funding. So it needs funding for the infrastructure, it needs funding for the training, it needs it's money, 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 really, to make some of the changes. So that's the first thing. But one of the things I feel that is a low hanging fruit is awareness. If you start to push awareness from the parents, they can start making demands on the school. There are various ways to regulate. There's the way where you can just go and they want to punish people. There's another way where you can go through to the users. It's like when when the users know their rights, so that when schools come up, they're like, no, but we know what you're meant to do. You're meant to do this. You're meant to do that. You're meant to do that, and then kind of forces the hands of the school. So that's just one thing. I think the regulator needs to move back and say, you know what, instead of saying I need to flog the schools and make regulations tight, how can I create a lot more awareness of what is required, so that parents also, I use them to push back. I use them to do um, a bit of regulation. I'm saying that, has your school does your school have this? Does your school do this? If they don't do that, what's their plan in terms of doing it? I feel where it is, if we keep waiting for the messiah to come from government, it won't really happen, especially in kind of financial crisis that the world is going through due to COVID. And even without COVID, education sector was already very poorly funded. With COVID, everything has been worsened. So I think online is a good enabler, but even if you make a regulation say everybody should go online, how many can really afford it? How many people have devices? How many people have access to the internet? So it's something that is really hard. But having said that, it's saying for the low hanging fruits, how can we leverage on technology? So some schools, don't have very good teachers, but can we put out there lesson plans that everybody can leverage on? So when you as a parent are complaining, you can say, but there are free lesson plans for you people to use and you people to up your game. There's this online that we can go and access. I feel that's where some of the regulations can come. That's some of where we can, begin to make progress. Let's come together, have a central place online that people can go to get information as to what their schools are meant to be doing, what the children are meant to be learning, have some resources that they can learn from there, so that the regulation now becomes user driven. I think that would help. We also need to see, how do we increasingly bring funding into this sector? How do we push back in terms of advocacy, so that we have not only just the right regulators in as well, but they also have a bit of the funding that they require to do it? How do we bring more accountability into the system, so that even for the little money they have, there's open reporting of how the funds were used? That's something that we're not very good at. It's like when we were growing up, it was easy to know what school was a good school. It wasn't something that was hidden secret, and that's because results were published. So you knew which school got students got the highest in common entrance or got the highest in WAEC. So those things helped regulate the school. That openness, and I think that's really where we need to go back to. I think if the regulators can go back where all the people that are registered, put it out there so people know those schools that are registered, people know those schools that are doing this. It's out there. The information is public information, and once it's for public information, you will see that just like the laws of demand and supply, it will regulate the sector. I think I should just stop here.
Thank you. That's quite insightful into this issue of our regulators and what and how they should be regulating. And yeah, for cutting them some slack. Yeah, we all understand the fact that this sector is poorly funded. In fact, when it comes to, it looks like maybe when the budget is being planned, the last thing that is thought of is education. It's just like, okay, whatever is left, just give it to that sector, which really should not be. And this will take me to the question I'm bringing to Adama. In First, should education regulators be selected, appointed, or elected? And if whichever one of the three you are rooting for, who are the people that should make up our body of regulators?
Okay. So what are the options again? You said selected, elected, or appointed.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm just going to group selected and appointed as one, and then okay. So I'm looking at appointed or elected. Well, I feel it should be appointed. In fact, I'm not sure which one to pick. Each of them have their own advantages and have their own disadvantages. But I'm looking at it from the point of view of I'm looking at it as someone who owns a business, for example, or something I want to grow. And if I want leadership, control, policymakers for my business, I'm possibly going to appoint them because I'm looking at people that I feel are competent enough to carry on the duty or carry on what is expected of them. And of course, what then is expected of someone who, what do I look out for? Well, I'm looking out for, first of all, it has to be experience. Okay. What kind of experience do they have in the system? Talking about how many years of experience do they have is also very important. I do not overlook experience. Actually, would pick experience over qualifications anytime, any day. But qualifications again are also good ways to ensure that these people um, are good for the role. But it doesn't also stop there. It comes down to personality and the person's love and passion for the sector. So it doesn't stop with just, oh, how many years experience do you have? What have you been doing? What qualifications do you have? What kind of what dreams, what goals does this person have for the sector is also very important because where what you see is what you get. So if you have a dream or you have a philosophy about education and it works, or it looks like it can work for the society, then why not? Why can't we adopt what the person believes in? But then it doesn't just mean, oh, what do you believe in? But what are you very passionate about, and what have you been pursuing all your life in education? So that's very important as well. So for me, it's experience. Then you have the qualifications, and then you have the passion for the industry. You know, um, and if the person is going to be elected, wow, I'm thinking about that. Who does the election? I hope it's not the general public because I'm not going to take that from, oh, let's just put it out and the general public is electing someone to head or people to head a whole institution as the whole education in sector. So no, not the general public. Um, Maybe a group of stakeholders, but then again, I still would not go for election. I think I'll go for appointment.
All right. Why would appointment be what's the advantage of appointing over electing?
Well, I feel like with appointing, you have the power to be able to look back at what this person has done over time. the only difference with appointing and electing for me is I wouldn't want a situation where people are bringing in candidates on other basis. Like, you know how Nigeria is. We always, oh, where's this person from? Oh, initially we had a Hausa man. Let's have an Igbo man. I don't think those are what we're looking for. We're not trying to please this tribe or trying to please this yeah, age category. We're just trying to bring out the best for the sector. And if that's the case, then we need to look at individuals and as individuals that they are, and look at their personalities, look at their philosophies, look at their passion and things they've always been working towards. So that's what it is for me. I wouldn't want
Okay.
it to be a political thing, if you get me.
Okay, if it's appointment, it's likely political. So let's move on from here. And I'll be asking Titi this. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think that's the point Adama is trying to make when she said she would not advocate for an election of our regulators. But well, I feel that if people are elected, then they can be removed because the same people who had a voice in bringing them there can have a voice in removing them and saying, look, you have not met up to our expectations of putting you there. So if our regulators have all the power, absolute power rests in them, who should be regulating our regulators?
um I'm not sure they have absolute power. Remember that a regulator, whatever industry, sits under a ministry. I feel a lot of our challenges in Nigeria is that accountability, whereby nobody publishes someone's report card, so to speak. And the report card is the basis of your reappointment. So whether you are appointed or elected by a group of people, there needs to be some criteria. So let's say, for instance, for an appointment, we now say, oh, the person must be an educator, have this amount of experience, and have this rap sheet, of what they've achieved. And for re-election or reappointment, you have A, B, and C. Those are the things that are missing. It's that thing of we are not performance driven. We are not performance driven. So whether you appoint the person, whether you elect the person, what's the criteria? What's the basis? Are you looking at the person's past performance? So you told us you would do this. Let's see your report card. How much of it have you done? Have you even started the process? You are there for 2-3 years. Have you started the process? Did you do this? What has been the changes? The money that you had, how did you spend it? So one of the challenges in government, generally in Nigeria, that a lot of the money that we get are used to pay salaries. So what that means that key projects cannot be done because once you finish paying salaries, almost nothing left. So we need to move away from that. That's what I'm of the opinion is. Let's even start by bringing up people's report cards. Let it be something that is compulsory, where you know how it is. When a jam used to come out, nobody in your class can hide and say she got this or she didn't get it. It was a public thing. You go to the paper. I remember then. You go there, look. Oh, if I know if his name and surname, I go and look for her. Did you get it? It's not something that is hidden. And once things are not hidden, it's the same thing think of it when we're in university. The lecturers that were good. It was not a hidden thing. The results will show, the feedback will show. And I'm saying presenting their periodic report card. Come and tell us how you spent the money. Come and tell us the initiatives you've done. Send us with supporting pictures. Because if you say you built a new secondary school here, or you gave IT labs here, these things cannot be. They can't be hidden. Show us.
Thank you. So our regulators are still regulated by the government, who really do not have anybody regulating them and who somehow are not really bothered about they're not that bothered about our education system. So we are back to our drawing board. Like, what's the way forward for us in the sector? But before we go on, let's welcome to the show this morning Olushola Olumide and Ademi Sola. Adio, welcome to
Good,
the show this morning.
good morning, Fui. Titi, good morning. Adela Solan, good morning. Happy to be here once again. Thank you.
Good
Good
Thank
morning.
morning. Good morning.
Yeah, you have met us on the topic of writing. We are crafting together a memo to our regulators this morning, and I will just start with you by asking, if you were to write a memo to to our regulators, what would you contribute? Now, in this memo we're writing, what would you contribute what would you contribute to that memo that we're writing to them? So I'll start with Aderisola.
Good morning again. So, I think my contribution would be our regulators should, we need to start seeing things like a business so that we can be profitable. I think that would be my number one message. Let's start seeing the education as a business so that we can be profitable. And when I mean profitable, so that's like education is not a one day like yesterday I expect millions tomorrow. It has to be a total implementation of whatever it is we are recommending to them. I will probably talk about on other episodes, other morning shows. But we need to ensure that every step of what we are implementing has to be. It has to be measurable. Anything you don't measure, it is not worth it. So it has to be measurable so it can be profitable. That would be my recommendation to them.
Thank you. So we have to be able to measure our footsteps. We have to be able to measure our footprints. We have to be able to measure what we have done, how far we have done, what we have covered, and what we have left to be able to properly put into perspective how far we have gone or we're going in the sector. Thank you so much for that, Aderisola. And I'll take the same question to Odishola Olumide this morning. What would you be penning on our memo to the regulators?
Thank you very much, Femi. I think number one on the list for me, looking at Nigerian context, will be sincerity of purpose. I say sincerity of purpose because there is more that happens in government than meet the eye. I want to believe it's not lack of not knowing what to do. You know, there is an adage in Yoruba that if you give a ram to the masquerade, you must leave the ram with the rope.
Mm-hmm.
In this climb, they will give you the ram, they will not leave the rope. There will always be a lacuna. The day you try to do the right thing the way it should be done, that is the day you'll be kicked out. So it's not because the people don't know what to do. There are great ideas, great proposals. Yeah. But I tell you, if that thing is implemented to the letter, it will lead to the emancipation of the masses, which the people that install the regulator doesn't want to happen. It's not about the regulator, but he who pays the piper, he takes the tune. The regulator also have boundaries they must not step, even if they know that stepping those boundaries is necessary. So you have to do a lot of lobbying, begging, and It's like in most cases you are given a script to act out. You dare not act outside that script, or else you forfeit that position. So for me, I pity the regulators, majority of them, especially for those of them who are all out to do something. So I will always say sincerity of purpose. Let the government, in alignment with the regulator, put their mouth where they are put their money where their mouth is. I think that is what I want to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Before we go on, let's take comments from our tribe member, from Olatunde Adebayo. He says appointment and election have flaws in the placement of our regulators in office in Nigeria. This is because we hardly request for the scorecard during and after their tenure. Sentiments, corruption, ethnic and religious bias is also the bane of our challenges. He goes on to say, appointment, I think, will get my support, for it doesn't require much party bias, and if not performing, can easily be revisited. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so this is a question I will ask Aderisola. When these regulators visit, let's pin it down now to the university system. When they visit universities, they come up with all sorts of recommendations, sometimes some courses, and sometimes an entire faculty is affected, where they are asked to either discontinue the course or have to quickly put some things in place to regulate or to regularize the course of the faculty. And many times, all we hear is this first report and their recommendation. And really, there's not much follow up. Would you say that that first report is a form of witch hunting, for of those departments, of those courses, of those faculties, or are we dropping the ball when it comes to follow up to ensure that these recommendations are actually followed to the letter? What do you think about this? Over to you, Derry. Okay, I'm not sure Derry is there and can hear
Thank
me.
you. Like I
Okay,
said, I think it's more of lack of follow-up and keeping the ball.
okay.
I can hear you, Finn. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Finn, can you hear
We're
me?
not hearing you. Yes, I can. I can.
Okay.
Okay, there seems to be a lag. I'm not sure.
Yes,
Adama,
I
can you
think
hear
there is
me?
a lot.
Okay.
Hello, Finn.
Yes, I can hear you, Finn. I can hear you. I'm just hoping that Darren is coming back soon, but I'm not sure.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
Derry, please go on. Okay, please go on.
Okay. So I was just saying I don't think it is a witch hunt. It is about follow-up. It's there's something we are supposed to call monitoring, but I always say there's a difference between monitoring and just determination. So it's supposed to be like a systemized thing where you say, oh, in on this day of every year or on this day of every month, we do this thing. Not it shouldn't be a one-off. It's like you say you're monitoring a river and you go and test it once. Like it doesn't that's not monitoring. You're not monitoring. You just tested or you determined, right? So, and education is the problem we have, and that is the same problem we have in this nation, is lack of maintenance. If there's any, as in, that is the way it is lack of maintenance. We cannot maintain culture, we cannot maintain a structure, we can't just maintain anything because people always think that once they do something wrong, it checks, it is okay. Forgetting that it is a continuous thing. It is not like I was saying something at my institution the other day. I said, look, You cannot tell me that, oh, I spoke to a student once and they still failed. Like speaking to a student once as in TED talk and he's sober, it is not enough to ensure that student is stable for the rest of the term. It has to be a systemized, like the same way we have orientation. Orientation shouldn't be a one-off. It should be systemized. Oh, every 2 weeks, I know this thing will wear off. People will start forgetting. I redo another one. So it should be something that's continuous and on a calendar. So it is people dropping the ball and it's the ball down back to the system. It is not with one. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just a systemic problem.
All right, thank you. It's a system problem, and we need to get this system issue properly fixed, because if this is fixed, we would have many more of our of other things falling into place and fitting into their rightful position on the larger picture. And as we round off this morning, I will take final thoughts, starting with Adama, then to Olushola Olumide, and then to Aderisola.
Okay, thank you, Finn. So if I were to write a memo to our regulators, I would ask them, like I said again, I would ask them the question: what kind of children or what kind of members of the society do we want to roll out at the end of a period, right? And when we're able to state the kind of skills, the kind of knowledge we are looking out for, the kind of behavior and attitudes we are looking out for, then we can go back and plan, put something, a systematic plan that is going to lead us to the required outputs. Also, I'm going to borrow a leaf from what one of the speakers said. It's actually very important to be very transparent with our results. The more people see how well we have achieved what we set out to achieve, which is our goal, the more people can trust that you can be able to achieve even more of that. And we should be very transparent with it. It's not something you write and then you send to the president and nobody knows what you're doing. We need to be able to see what we are doing at every point in time. So that's my final word. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Over to you, Olushola Olumide.
Thank you. Writing to the regulator, I will still insist they should please have the courage to do what is expected of them. And of course, they should into the global best practices. We may not be there in one day, but as we consistently go through, we monitor, we evaluate, we improve, we look at the variance, what is targeted and what's actually achieved, then plug in the variances here and there. I believe with that, we should be able to get to where we are going. And they should give priority to due diligence, irrespective of who is affected, who is not affected. Due diligence, doing the right thing at the right time, in the right place, for the right reason. Thank you very much. Hello, Finn, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Over to you, Derry. Let's have your parting shot.
Okay, my final words will be: do not give chloroquine for a Panadol problem, because it's the person that has a headache that knows that it is not malaria. They are probably stressed, they need paracetamol or something. Our regulators always think like we need to understand our problem deeply before we prefer solutions. Too many solutions are preferred without understanding the depth of the problem. That would be my thing, as in call the people, the stakeholders. Really, when I say stakeholders, I'm not talking about a committee, like go back to the grassroots, ask questions. There's an adage that says when you ask questions, you can't go wrong. Ask questions and listen before you start preferring solutions. That would be my pattern words.
Thank you very much, Deary. And with that, we have come to the end of our show this morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Adama. Thank you, Shala Olumide. Thank you, Aderi Sola. Thank you, Titi. She was here earlier. We miss her. I'm sure that there were some issues there. And to our tribe, thank you, Mr. Rotimi Tayo, for rejoining us also at this point of the show. And to our tribe members, Olatunde Adebayo, thank you for your comments this morning. And every other person who has joined us, thank you so much for being part of our show this morning. It was a huge pleasure having you at the other end. And we are rounding off today, but we'll be back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock with another robust package, another discussion in the world of education. Join us then. Tell somebody, bring somebody along, tell somebody that you know to tell somebody that to tell somebody else, and let's have a beautiful discussion tomorrow. But as we round off this morning, we'll go out in our signature style, and at the count of two, we sign off this morning. Let's go try. 1, 2, let's go.
It's always a
It's
great
always a
morning
great
in the
morning
Good
on
Morning
the Good
Education
Morning
Show.
Education Show.
Show. Have a great
Bye.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.